Little bit of a pause. All right, we are in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 1 of your quarterfinals. Spawning in. Over on the west-hand side, playing as the Delhi, we have got DeMusliM.
And on the other side of the map, it is going to be, with the French in the color red, 3DB. We've talked a lot about this player over here. We've talked about how unconventional his playstyle is and how dangerous it could be. So let's talk a little bit about DeMusliM on the other side, though, because, you know, he had an up and down series in Golden League, so to say. He is the champion of Steel Series Prime Cup, so one of the few people that can say that, hey, I have won an ST Rage from Paris 4 tournament, but obviously his goal is to make it to Red Bull Wololo Legacy. So for him, having these good consistent performances in the weekly and monthly events will be imperative.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's about building up those points and trying to get them as high as possible. And, I mean, already we've got some pretty standard stuff coming out. It's a double scout opening for both of these players at this stage. B just jumping around the back of DeMusliM's base and looking to steal away a couple of sheep. He's actually been pretty successful with that.
Indeed, and these sheep wars, they are actually pretty important, despite the fact that, you know, you're looking at a civilization with the Delhi that will mostly be basing its food eco around the berries, and of course the French either around the hunt with mills that he builds close to them, or just professional scouts. But still, sheep plays an important role here, because that is going to be your backup food source for both players. And given the fact that both of these civilizations like to go for a ton of early aggression, a ton of very food-heavy units, like let's say the Horsemen, let's say the Royal Knights, you will be depleting your food bank pretty rapidly, and you want to make sure that you have as much backup food as possible, because you want to delay that farm transition for as long as possible.
Yeah, especially when you're playing up against a civilization like the French with those knights, very capable of taking out villages really, really quickly. Now, obviously, this is a pretty decent Delhi matchup. Delhi are quite happy with this one. Obviously, you'd still think it's French favored just at the moment because French are still such a damn strong civ. But one of the big bonuses that the Delhi do get is that they've got access to that textile upgrade for free, which means that you're not going to have to fork out 150 resources for it. It's only going to cost you 20 seconds, which is equivalent to a villager, and of course, you don't pay anything for it. So as soon as DeMusliM gets to Feudal Age, I suspect he's going to be looking to pick up that upgrade as soon as possible.
Indeed, he just now dropped his mosque over here, so efficient production is going to be on the way. And as we move towards that feudal age that you mentioned, indeed, the dynamics that we'll have to look at here is how B is going to try to prevent DeMusliM from taking those sacred sites. And we gotta say that French is a good civilization to do that with, because as you pointed out, you have those very powerful Royal Knights that do a ton of damage after a charge. So it is much easier for you to pick off one of those scholars, even if there are some supporting units nearby, than as compared to, let's say, playing as the Abbasids.
Yeah, just by having the knight rather than the horseman enables you to get so much more burst damage off. So I would be definitely looking out for that. And I guess one of the things to note with that is that we did see DeMusliM go for that mosque, but it was a little bit late. So I would be surprised if we actually see him get piety in before he starts taking those sacred sites.
Yeah, it was the delayed mosque build, and for those of you that don't know, there is essentially 2 different types of Dark Age build with the Delhi, which essentially revolves around how soon you're getting your berries and how soon you're getting your mosque out there. If you delay your mosque, that is going to delay your timing of piety, which gives a bunch of HP for your scholars. So that is going to leave them a little bit more exposed at the beginning of Feudal Age. It's not a huge deal, but it's something that needs to be considered, especially against a civilization like the French, that, as we discussed, is very capable of picking off those early scholars moving out for the sacred sites.
Yeah, we can see those scouts now moving out, just looking to try and spot out anything from their enemy. I'm a little bit confused just because it's very rare to have the Delhi playing as the blue and the French playing as the red. So I'm going to have to try and work my brain around that, try and rack my brain through. But yeah, we can see now the DeMusliM moving out and looking to come back onto that gold mine and begin harassing those villagers down.
Indeed, that is something that you commonly do. Look at that. What is... Wait a second. Is there a boar there?
There is a boar there. Has he killed that boar already? How did he kill this boar?
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Okay, hold on. He had a scout?
Ooh, the weak scout. And he tanked all the damage with it. That's actually really good. And
but
honestly...
How was he able to tank it with just one scout?
Maybe the second scout also took the damage? Yeah, the second scout is also damaged, I think.
Oh, so he's pulled them both down there. That's very smart for him right there. That's a big brain move, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, is that typically you're going to see B bring out these sort of weird strategies that you just don't expect. And this is it. This is the French taking the Boar at 5 minutes with only 5 villagers. So there wasn't a big push. He's still got plenty of villagers back in base underneath the town center. And it's going to guarantee his food income through this early stage of the game.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And honestly, when we were looking at Dark Age, I was like, is there a possibility of B pulling Boar villagers in the French? Remember, the mill is cheaper, so you can justify grabbing that much sooner. You can also grab Wheelbarrow quite early because it's also at a discount, so you can walk out relatively early as well towards that Boar. But I was like, I don't think he's going to take that risk very early on. Guess what? I was wrong, and that is a perfect Boar spot for him, by the way, because not only does he have the Boar, and he has a tower right next to it, that tower is also going to deny one of the sacred sites. It's a very nice 2-in-1 there for B. That is a really good Boar spot for him, and the Muslim won't be aware of that for a long, long time.
Yeah, this is such a smart move, and honestly recognizing this and looking to take it, but we can see Salami is pointing out that one of those villages is idle, and that's the consequence of getting the mill a little bit too close to the Boar, is that the villagers are unable to gather up all of them on top of it. Sometimes this happens when you've got 8 or 9 villagers down there, because only a maximum of 8 can be held. But we now see a raid coming through. B is going to be moving down with his knight. Looks like he's repelled for the moment. DeMusliM continuing to be very aggressive and greedy with these scouts back home.
Yeah, he kind of needs to, because he needs to push away the French player from the gold. But this is where that French dynamic comes into play, and this is what I love about B's build here, because at the beginning with the Delhi, as long as you are not getting that critical mass of spearmen, horsemen up, and as long as you don't have sanctity, you don't even think about moving out of your base to do any kind of aggression. You are the defender against the French. So by the time the Muslim spots out that Boar expansion from B, B is going to capitalize on that quite massively, and looks like he actually gets a freebie with a charge over there. Spearman a little pedestrian to react, and B was even surprised about that. You could see that he turned around, he was like, maybe I can get one more hit because he isn't looking, but that wasn't the case over there. Looks like a scout also lost his life in combat over here, so the Muslim is down to just 1.
Yeah, there has been a fair bit of action in the early game, but we can see DeMuslim's up on some pretty decent numbers. The fact that he's got 9 spears out, this is going to be more than enough to begin pushing out and clearing these sacred sites. And it looks like it's going to be that southmost sacred site he's heading towards early, so he's probably scattered it out, worked out, well, hold on a minute, there's a Boar over there. Sure, there's an outpost, but hey, we're going to have to clear it anyway, so we might as well go clear it now, and that's exactly where he begins to go.
Yeah, but look at that, a proxy range is already out there, so B is getting ready, and B is also mining some stone. I would think he already has arrow slits, but fortifications is what matters the most, and indeed, he actually skips arrow slits for fortifications. I love that, because there is a massive difference between the survival capabilities of a tower without fortifications and with fortifications against these early torch units. This essentially prevents the Muslim from pushing that angle in the next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You can siege it down without a ram. It is possible. It's hard, though, and you will take a great amount of losses. But now we see B is under attack. There are spearmen for DeMusliM now pushing up towards the top side of this map. And I think DeMuslim's probably realized, well, you know what? I'm probably not going to be able to take that south side sacred site just yet. I'm sure I can consolidate up towards the north and then look to begin taking down that position towards the south. But we can see that he's up to 15 spears already, so a very heavy spear composition for him. Interesting to note, we do see B is also on stone. Now, this is twofold in that, obviously, it provides you those upgrades for the extra health, for the outposts, provides the arrow slits, but most importantly, it also provides the option for a second town center as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and if you think about that, now this build, especially if the B decides to go for that second TC, is actually very reminiscent of those more passive Rus Boar builds, where you do go out for the board, but it's not like you're going for a full all-in aggression in feudal, rather drop a second town center behind it. And French double town center feudal ages are already very powerful, especially if they are fueled by a boar-based food economy.
Yeah, well, we now see those numbers of spearmen continuing to move up towards the north. It looks like a scholar without piety may get taken out right here. Fortunately, B not going to be tracking it perfectly, and as a result, it does look like it does get away. More units now going to be coming out for B as well. A handful of archers are going to be looking to try and take down a few of these horsemen, but now the horsemen turning their attention towards the archers, trying to take them out before there's any real damage done. But at this point in time, it looks like B is going to be able to hold on.
Yeah, B needs to make sure that the coordination of his units is perfect over here, because keep in mind that his archer range is to the south. So right now, the Muslim can play that doctrine of divide and conquer, where he just essentially pushes a wedge in between the two forces, isolating the archers from the knights, and that could be concerning for B over here, because that's a lot of spearmen to fight against. That's not something that you want to take without the support of archers here. So if the Muslim is focusing his forces around that central area, cutting off the archer reinforcements, it could be concerning for B.
Yeah, and DeMusliM starting to look good. The numbers of horsemen are rising. He's up to 8 horsemen now. Going to be able to hold this sacred site on a little bit longer. Spearmen coming in as well to try and neutralize it a little bit further. Horsemen making a charge over towards the archers, and now we see that there's a bit of a split. We've got the knights down towards the south, while the horsemen are jumping up towards the archers on the north side. And this is not good for B. Typically, you do not want to be splitting up your forces like this up against the Delhi. You want to try and be screening and blocking as much as you can with your knights. And we can see that, unfortunately for B, that's not going to be the case. Rather, he's just going to be taking a lot of stabs to the face with those horsemen.
Yeah, he's taking a lot of stabs to the face, but now he's got an archer range back at home as well, and he's gonna have the safety of his base over here. And the moment the Muslim turns around, you see that B is going to turn on the pursuit, because you won't be able to pull back your forces over here. Behind this one, B is also very active trying to decap those sacred sites, but the Muslim, nice moves to maintain control over 2 of those sacred sites, so that's gonna be a ton of extra gold for the Muslim to work with. And right now, the Muslim is the one who has to add something to deal with this force here, because I don't think he has the numbers to deal with the army of B right now.
Yeah, the numbers are looking pretty good for him, but he's got the scholars out there that are going to be able to help out in the fight in the event that it happens. But he's got a pretty decent mass here. He's up to a total of 41 population. Or rather, I apologize, DeMuslim's got a beautiful mass here. But B definitely going to be on the defense now. And now we see those horsemen just getting in on top. Beautiful screen attempts trying to come through for B. He's going to manage to pull it back, slowly but steadily running back towards those reinforcements. But as you mentioned, just the numbers here are looking impressive for DeMusliM.
It's also much easier for the Muslim to micro this army here, because this is a full melee composition. He just needs to attack move, and he's going to get some very nice hits out there. Whereas for B, he needs to make sure that every single time those archers fire, they're focusing down a spearman, not a horseman. So it is a much more micro-intensive play as well. Here for B, it's much more difficult to micro an army of knights and archers as compared to just horsemen and spearmen over here, especially when the Muslim has such a numerical advantage.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me right now, because I play this composition quite a lot into French's China, is it's difficult to deal with a French player who starts adding in spears at this point, because he's got enough archers to begin one-shotting those spearmen. And so what you can do is add in your own spears, and then that's going to help out against the horsemen. So I think for B in this position, adding in those spearmen would really help him out here. But he's in a bit of a difficult spot, though, because this central sacred site is nowhere near getting taken. But now, once again, we see those horsemen numbers really starting to flesh out. The spearmen on the back line going to be trying to catch through on those knights. The knights going to have to fall away towards the north. And once again, we see the horsemen completely surrounding the army of B. B is not looking healthy right now. This is not good for B. And now those spearmen going to continue collapsing in, heading towards the base of B. DeMusliM is looking fierce in this early game.
He's looking really fierce, and this is the thing, the archers simply can't stop and fire at those spearmen because they're being pursued by so many horsemen. And the scary thing here for B here is that the Muslim is also piling up resources for Castle Age. So it's not like the Muslim is just going to stop over here with the huge army. He has 42 military population against 16. He's gonna get up to Castle Age, he's going to start picking up the relics, and he's going up with the compound of the defender. We all know what that is pointing towards. It is going to be a heavy focus on stone. It's gonna be elephants and that forward castle style, very aggressive early Castle Age prey from the Delhi. Probably the best power spike they have in the entire game.
Yeah, it's a difficult power spike to deal with as well, because now he's picked up the 2 sacred sites. It's going to be 5 relics that quickly pop into his pocket. He's got 4 of them that are positioned very well. Obviously, one of them a little bit further away. But he'll be able to use those as well to just really start building up good siege numbers. So you'll see, I expect to see a trebuchet 2 or maybe even 6 coming out, and those keeps, as we always do see. And then in addition to that, you would expect to see elephants in great number as well. But that age up now, just about to be coming through. We can see B over on the other side of the map, just going to be gathering up some deer. An interesting strategy from him here.
I mean, it's a shorter distance to walk to the enemy deer from the board than it is to walk back home. It's risky though, because you could easily lose 4 villagers, but you know who else could lose villagers? It is the Muslim, because those knights are now coming in for a raid, and the Muslim, he hasn't been facing those knight raids for a while. This is gonna be the first instance of him getting a ton of damage done on his eco, and this could be immensely impactful over here, because B, he is killing so many villagers and no reaction so far from the Muslim.
Yeah, DeMusliM unaware at the moment. Fighting over towards the north, we can see standing on the sacred site. And this is that classic timing push that we see where the Delhi player looks to go up and the French player might go for a potential kill. And that's exactly what is happening right now. So the numbers are starting to really weaken down. We see a 15 villager gap beginning to build. In addition to that, it looks like more scholars are going to be going down here, and you ideally want to keep this scholar mass alive as much as possible. And B senses there may be blood in the water.
Yeah, he definitely senses that there is blood in the water, as you pointed out. DeMusliM just spent a bunch of resources going up to Castle Age, and keep in mind that with the Delhi, it takes a ton of time to grab those upgrades. So it's not like you're getting your power spike immediately. The first elephant is now out, but B has the mobility advantage with those knights to just potentially go for the raids. Still, the big challenge is ahead of him. Stopping this Castle Age army, especially with the elephants and the scholars that will be healing it. We're up to 11 scholars for DeMusliM here. Stopping this direct push into his base is going to be challenging, but you don't want to leave that elephant alone out there because that's way too many units for him to deal with. Perfect surround by B, actually.
Yeah, perfect surround, but fortunately there are spearmen here. If the horsemen do let them through, they're going to be able to open up a little bit of a window here. You can see him trying to make his way out. Unfortunately, not enough scholars to heal it up, and the elephant does go down. That's a substantial loss there. The same amount of resources that you've got in a bombard that just went down right there. It is absolutely devastating for DeMusliM. So B is going to be happy with that pickup, and now Relic towards the north. Also going to be picked up by this scholar, but fortunately it looks like the scholar will be going down, and B's going to be happy with that little pickup. But once again, we see the horsemen moving forward. It looks like the veteran upgrades have come through. We see veteran horsemen, veteran spearmen. Everything is veteran now, and things are starting to look up for DeMusliM.
Indeed, especially because he's picking up relics as well to compensate for the villager deficit, but the spearman numbers have been decimated over here by the archers, and you still gotta respect those French Royal Knights. They are way better than a standard feudal age unit out there. In fact, they are like feudal age plus, so if the spearmen are all gone, you can still deal with these veteran horsemen using your knights over here, but this is gonna be a difficult hold for B to make. And look at the towers coming up. This could be the kryptonite of DeMusliM over here, access to food, because once again, his food villagers will be exposed to aggression, and like, let's not forget, he has lost quite a lot of villagers already.
Yeah, he's still down by about 13 villagers, and we do indeed see that the battle's beginning down towards the south over those deer carcasses. Fortunately, it looks like those outposts will be swiftly dealt with by DeMusliM. I suspect he's got an elephant or two en route towards his position and should be able to clean it up. But the villagers,
what are you doing?
Villagers are not doing well right now. But back towards the center of the map, more knights coming out. He's going to be careful to pay attention here. Fortunately, he does. These royal knights are going to be trading out pretty effectively with these horsemen, but it's the same old story of just not enough units here for B.
Yeah, and as you pointed out before, spearmen would help so much, because DeMusliM, he doesn't have a direct counter to the spearmen. So just let's say 5 or 6 spearmen for B. If they can get 1 or 2 nice hits on those horsemen, you suddenly are going to wipe out half of DeMusliM's army over here. You do have a great counter to the spearmen with your archers. You do have a reasonable response to those horsemen with the knights, but it would be so useful for you right now to add a couple of spearmen to deal with that big horseman mass. Essentially just give a ton of upside to your army. Like, every single hit with those spearmen on an enemy horseman is extremely devastating for the army of DeMusliM. And with so many elephants approaching your base as well, you can also consider the fact that, you know, you need something that deals with the elephants, and mass spearmen actually does fairly well against them given the circumstances.
Yeah, that is true. There's obviously a lot here defending these elephants, so look, I'd be surprised if they manage to survive. But now we've got that push coming out. DeMusliM has got plenty of stone in the bank. I wouldn't be surprised to see plenty of villagers coming up with that as well, looking to drop down a keep, because that's what I suspect is going to be coming up next.
Because keep in mind, he's got the compound of the defender, so each keep only costs 600 stone. He could afford 2 keeps in a matter of seconds, and indeed this is the timing push that we talked about with the Delhi. He's coming in with the horsemen, the spearman, the elephants, and the villagers. I think those blue dots walking across the map indeed are the villagers. That's gonna be 1 castle for the first, and then he's going to follow it up with a 2nd castle right next to the town center of B, most likely.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to come in here. Keep in mind that B is still in that 2nd age. So when it comes to his reactions to this keep, he doesn't have things like the battering, or rather the trebuchet. He's only going to have access to that battering ram. But now we do see that keep being dropped down. The elephant slowly moves its way out. And with that, B is going to be in a very difficult position, continuing to funnel back towards this wood line. The elephants continue charging in. He's just being absolutely eaten alive out here. Spearman in the mix as well. Going to be able to deal with those knights very effectively. And now those villagers are going to be exposed on that wood line. With that, B is going to have to make a run for it up towards the north. And the knights are going to be doing their best, but get absolutely shut down as they come in. And things are not looking good right now for B.
Not at all. In fact, the Muslim behind this one is picking up 5 relics as well. He does have a massive military advantage, and B knows that he can't stop the keep. He wouldn't be able to stop a second keep here. He doesn't have the army anymore. He's going to tap out, and the Muslim takes game number 1 with the Delhi.
Absolutely methodical by DeMusliM. Honestly, it looked really good. There was only one point in that game where it looked a little bit scary after he had lost all those villagers, and it kind of looked like B was beginning to push out, but he stabilized and he held very, very well. It was an impressive performance from him. So game number 1, and going over to DeMusliM, we will be entering into game number 2 shortly. Obviously, we've got French and Delhi that cannot be picked. We're going to be going to the home map of B. It's going to be Lipany. It's going to be English versus Rus.
Oh, Rus.